Star Trek, the ultimate franchise. These are the voyages of 3 veteran Trekkies, Rich, Ian, and Toby. Their ongoing mission? To explore the vast Star Trek universe, to seek out new perspectives and fresh debates, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. Beyond the Final Frontier.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Final Frontier. This is Rich Matthews, just giving you a quick intro to the second part of our Nana visitor interview. She was so great and gave us so much time that we felt it was appropriate to, after we completed our discussion of the women of Star Trek, to include some of the other areas we talked about in her amazing and fascinating life. So just a little content warning that some of the discussion gets very meaty, very serious, touching on Nana's own personal experience of post-traumatic stress and sexual assault. So please, by all means, carry on and listen to this incredible woman talk about her experience and resilience, but just with a little warning. After that, no further ado, we'll go back to the conversation with Nana visitor.
How full circle was it when you starred on Broadway after Star Trek in Chicago? And did you watch Star Trek?
That was closing a ring. Well, I had 2 little boys, 8 and 4. I was on my own at that point. So it was kind of madness. And to add all of that, what was going on at the moment was 9/11 while I was on Broadway. So it was a mad, wild time. So no, I wasn't watching anything other than my back.
Fascinating that given what DS9 represented and all of the geopolitical things that it tackled, and Kira in particular and the things she represented, to then be on stage as 9/11 happened, that must have been quite an interesting swirl of themes.
It's a very interesting dynamic that you bring up, because Kira did shift me. After all, dropping her thoughts and her stances in my brain and therefore my body all those years, it did make me respond differently than a lot of people on Broadway who were very scared to go back because there was threat. We didn't know. Were there more planes? We heard that 42nd Street would be a target for sure. And when they called us back, I had this, it was like, no, this is what we do. We have to get people to stand back up and get to keep life going. And I did it knowing that there was danger. And I do attribute that to Kira's influence.
Oh, that's excellent. Marvelous.
Did you, just to stay with this thought for one more minute, and again, not to go too far down the rabbit hole, Nana, did you ever see a movie called The Siege?
No, I didn't.
The Bruce Willis film?
The Bruce Willis, Annette Bening, and Denzel Washington movie. They blow up a Broadway theater in it, and it's very, it's 2 or 3 years before 9/11 occurred, and basically it's about terrorism in New York, and a theater gets blown up. And just that, what you're saying with the Broadway connection and, the show must go on type of mentality, right?
Yeah, that we were a part of the city that normalized life.
Again.
That made it seem like we were going to be okay. So it was a responsibility to show up and do it. And I really knew that I was worried because my boys they would go to school, then I would go to the theater. So obviously they needed to be at the theater with me. They were I have mental images of my sons playing pickup sticks in my dressing room with the women of Chicago dressed in these outrageous, I don't know what that did to them.
That's formative as hell.
Right. Yeah.
But I knew when I went, they can't come to the theater. I was like, so I think this might be it. And I did. We all did.
And Nana, I want to throw something else out there that I don't think I've ever mentioned to you. When I did my first interview with you for Starlog, the show had just started. That piece was assigned at 1,500 to 2,000 words. I handed in like a 3,300 word
Wow.
piece. You had opinions on the character. You had opinions on the show. You and I hit it off. And
the editor must have hated
I handed
you.
in that. Nope. Dave McDonald, the editor, didn't change a word, and he didn't shorten it at all. So that was, if I'm not mistaken, if it was supposed to be 4 pages, it was 6. If it was supposed to be 6, it was 8. And he's like, "There's nothing to cut here." And that was you being you, which is what I've always appreciated. You and I have had a lot of conversations on and off the record over the years, good times, bad times, breakfast at diners with the boys.
Boy, I remember that so clearly. I can be there in that diner with you. That's a big memory. Yeah.
I was just going to add that as someone who has edited Ian's work, I used to cut loads out.
Yeah,
He's
me too.
always waffling
Yeah.
before
I'm
you can
thinking
answer.
fuck you, but I'm
before
not
you
saying
can
it.
answer.
No, we could see.
I saw it
Yeah.
on her face.
I had too much class to say
It's
fuck
a
you
long
to.
way for it to come over across the ocean.
I have
But
to
we
say,
got-
this is one of the most amazing things that this show brings, these long relationships. This, there are not that many shows that will do that, where I have a relationship with you that goes, 30 more? 30 plus years. I mean, it's a relationship. It's incredible. And with people in England who, started following me, there are these women who came every night at a certain point to Chicago and bought the front row. I still talk in email with them. It's just so unusual. It's such an unusual situation. It's such, as I say, it's such a frequency that we meet on.
The characteristic you were just describing, Ian, is what you get in the book. Because obviously, when you see something like that come out, again, like when you do junkets, you get the fear: is this going to be what is this going to be? And it's such a good book, and because it doesn't feel like a fluff piece, and there's so much interesting commentary. And the fact that you start the chapter on Troy with Marina chose not to speak to me. That I'm pretty sure other equivalent authors, actors are writing these kind of books or being ghostwritten, and I know you weren't ghostwritten, might not have put that.
Yeah.
And that honesty is great.
I was, and I remember when the book was coming out, someone on X said, "Is this going to upset me?" And I said, "I don't know. I can tell you I told the truth." And I did. I told my truth. There are lots of truths out there, and I welcome the conversations for sure.
For instance, we talked about duets. We've heard there's been reports that Harris Yulin in general could be a difficult actor to work with. Now, we won't again speak to your experience, but that and sometimes add to the dynamic if the actor uses it professionally.
I have another take on that.
Okay.
I think that Harris, he wasn't difficult, and maybe he is with other people. He wasn't difficult because he was struggling with me. He was struggling with himself. He was struggling with trying to incorporate the tone of a show that suddenly has monologue after monologue after monologue, and you're under rubber, and these are long hours, longer than most shows do, and there's just there's a marathon aspect to it that if you're thrown into it, it's really, really challenging. So I felt and I understood what he was grappling with. I think the way to get the most interesting dynamics is through a sense of safety. And that's not some kind of soft thing. That's like when you are safe, you take chances. where if you are feeling threatened, you do the safest thing, which is not necessarily the most creative thing.
Accessible. Yeah. I don't know how you do the cruise. I see all the accounts of the cruise, because I can't afford to go on it. You're famously touted as someone who's always there, visible, active, engaging. I'm like, that must be knackering, having to do all that.
It's so wonderful. It is so satisfying. It's there's one bullshit thing that I hate, and it's the table between me and the people who come up to talk to me. It feels hierarchical. I know it's just to keep order, but it feels like some kind of weird hierarchy where you're over there and I'm over here and don't touch me. And on the ship, all of that goes away. And we are all looking at the sunset over the water and all free to be 2 a.m. and, dancing to Bad Bunny. It's so great. There's no hierarchy for me anyway. And I love that. I love that aspect.
Can I share a quick anecdote following up on that, Nana? On the second cruise, that was the only one that I went on. And no, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was the only one I went on. And we had it was Jordan Hoffman who was the host of those. He did the moderating. And on one of the cruises, when I was with StarTrek.com, I went to cover it. And then Jordan literally missed the boat because of a snowstorm. So I ended up doing a lot of the moderating for the first week of the cruise.
How did you manage that
and then he
snowstorm?
Yeah, that's quite an active God.
You're the
we got there a day
You're
early.
the one who's got control of the weather. I see.
There you go. That's me. But it was really interesting was we ended up drinking. You, me, Lolita, Connor. Who else was there? There were 6 or 7 of us at 1 a.m, drinking a lot and telling stories about life and career and...
How great is that?
Right? It was awesome. We were there till 2 or 3 a.m. The bar practically stayed open for us. And the thing that I remember distinctly about it was one of my favorite memories of, my experiences with Star Trek was hanging out with everybody and just being a part of this conversation. But what I loved was it was super late in the morning and a few fans wandered by. This was like the bar on whatever deck. This was not a VIP area, nothing like that. And fans walked by and just saw and were very respectful or just said, "Hi, how's everybody doing?" And you specifically took time to say, "Hey, how are you?" Spend a minute with the fans just to make them feel they were a part of it as well.
See,
nobody came and sat and joined us, but it was just...
I'm going to have to sell that kidney now so I can go.
You have to. It's so much fun.
Right, but it was just so wonderful and inclusive that...
There it is.
I loved that experience.
Yeah, that's what's so fun. It's just, it's one of my favorite things to do.
It's very dependent on the weather.
No, did you not say that when you first read Kira, it kind of felt like that?
Well, it was the 90s. I thought it was a man.
Yeah.
I thought they made a mistake. Major Kira. I could see that as a man's name. And it was like...
You should read my Starlog article, Rich.
You've written so bloody much. How am I supposed to get through it?
It's a bit long-winded, Ian.
Yeah, I've heard that it should have been half
needs
the length.
cutting.
Well, yeah, but I quoted her verbatim.
Long-winded one, Toby.
I didn't say that. No, I would never say that. No, how surreal is it to you that it's a full year, October 1st, since your book came out?
It is surreal. It's weird. And sometimes I go, how did that all happen? It's amazing.
What did the book mean to you? What was the biggest of the takeaways?
Oh my God. I talk about being caught by the amber of your times, that drip by drip, the culture can catch you. and freeze you in time. And I didn't think I was. But critically thinking about yourself and your past and your behavior and what you thought you were doing as opposed to what you were doing, how you thought about yourself as opposed to how you lived your life, made me realize, and it was actually a rocky period for me after I wrote the book, all these realizations of cracking that amber, most of it from the 90s, but certainly before that too, of matching what my ethics and what my intentions for how I walk on this earth matched how I was living, and realigning that was painful. And some people in my life dropped away, because there were certain things that were not acceptable to me anymore. Certain ways of being, certain relationships where I was caretaking as opposed to having boundaries and having realistic give and take. And it was terribly painful. And that was caused by writing the book.
And then one quick follow-up before the other guys jump in. What kind of reaction did you get from people? Let's break it down. Men, what kind of reaction? Women, what kind of reaction? And from actors, from female actors, what kind of reaction did you get?
I haven't really gotten a lot of reaction from the women actors, the people that I wrote about, which is interesting. There really hasn't been a lot, but it's possible a lot of them just haven't I know that I did. Nicole DeBoer hadn't read it, and she said, "I'm sorry, I just haven't read it for a long time." And she finally did, and she was like, wow, that put it into a different perspective for me. Another one, now that we're talking about it, Denise Crosby, who went, "This is mind-blowing. I did not understand. I didn't see it in those terms. And now that I do, I can't unsee it." But from women, it's been mostly thank you. I love this book. There's one woman on X who said, "Look, I'm threatening my fiance. That book is going to be at our wedding. It's going to be about." And I love that, of course. And I remember a young man who came up to me and said, the sexual assault, it happened to me. And I couldn't talk about it. And reading about it, you talking about it, it makes me feel, I wish I could remember the French woman's name who went to court to sue her husband because she famously said, "Not my shame, your shame." And I think this shame, especially for men who have been raped, it really helps to normalize it, to say this is a human experience and this is not a shameful one. I remember an 87-year-old woman who said to me, I thought because I froze that I had asked for it. And at 87, she realizes it wasn't her fault. That's a nervous system reaction that you don't get to choose. It just happens to you. It's your body's way of going, this is the way we're going to survive it. So those interactions have been incredible. Michael Dorn read it cover to cover. I don't think a lot of actors have. And he said, "I didn't know. I had no idea." Armin had a similar reaction and felt that it was very important that it had been written. The response has been overwhelmingly positive.
It sounds a bit like this relates to what I was going to ask, actually, that's an acknowledgement of that privilege, I suppose, of being a man in that situation at that time, that they didn't see it, that was the context.
Yeah.
And there was a sort of contradiction, which I'm sure is reflected by your own experience putting the book together, which is you talk very early on in the intro about the sexualization of an actress. So are you going to be sexy? That there's a lot in the book that addresses these things, but that conversation with that agent, it's just like, oh. But then, are you still able to look through because unlike most of us, actors have lots of imagery throughout their lives to as you say, to preserve yourself in that amber in a way that a lot of us don't. And then equally, are you still able to look through all the photography of yourself in this sort of book and still go, that's still of value even within that context? Because it's a very beautiful book, which is an interesting contradiction in the sense that a lot of the things you're talking about is how the women are portrayed, and how they're presented, and yet it's still undeniably a beautiful book.
That's such a complicated question, and it's owning things. I think Jerry Ryan owned it and went, yes, this is how I look and how I'm going to look. And I'm very much at ease with this. I never felt like she was uncomfortable. There are times that I look at pictures of myself and I look uncomfortable. I look like this isn't how I want to be. This is something being forced on me. And that could be my lack of being able to make that leap of this is what's necessary for the character, or, that could be my own problem with it. I don't know. Yeah, some of the pictures make me uncomfortable.
Because that's as a reader who's very familiar with the imagery as being a Star Trek fan, it did reframe.
Yeah.
And just a conversation about the haircut. I mean, I think about immediately your own chapter. You have a very striking, one of the striking show gallery shots of you giving a very classic Kira pose. And having come to that picture, having read what I've read beforehand, you realise you go, my reaction is more complicated than it was. And in that sense, you've done you've already achieved a great thing. Just in the reading.
I think complicated is good. I think a complicated reaction under most circumstances is great rather than black and white.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would just like to say that I thought the book was brilliant. I haven't finished it completely. I'm still working my way through it. But it was really eye-opening for me, because I'm, as someone who tends to focus on the work and not the background stuff and who's dating who and all that kind of stuff. I'm not that celebrity aspect of it. It was just really eye-opening. It really was. I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I can't wait to actually finish it.
The final chapter is great.
So I have a question for you. Do you think you're
me or all of us?
All of you.
All right.
Do you think that this knowledge of our process, of us as humans, of what was happening backstage as we were filming this, does that interfere with your intake of Star Trek? Would it be better if we weren't personalities that you know?
This is going to be hard for me to answer easily quickly, because I'm doing a PhD at the moment, and it's on Star Trek.
Oh, cool.
And it's about fandom and their parasocial relationship to the makers. And that is exactly that. Because that sense of ownership over the character is one thing. That sense of ownership increasingly over the performer and the creators is another. And I don't think I can answer your question very well, because for as long as I can remember, I was not about the celebrity per se, not that sort of in that modern sense, but I've always been aware of who's done what.
Right.
That sort of industry context is about what I'm saying. I've always been aware of the industry context, so I've always had that baggage. Like when I came to watch Voyager, I knew who Kate Mulgrew was. I knew Bob Picardo from Inner Space and Joe Dante films, and the being a whale from The Howling. I knew Robert Duncan McNeil before I saw him in Next Gen. I knew him from Masters of the Universe, and it's stuff like that. So I always had that, but I don't know if that impact. I think it's good to know after, maybe. I think is my gut response, which is to know some of the things which you yourself went through during, after, is valuable. But it is also valuable to experience the work, because that's actually what you're doing. The rest of it is just life. So I would always appreciate the chance to experience the work first, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough one, because there are things that happen behind the scenes that we don't know about, and people want to keep private.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody got drunk and misbehaved at a party, if somebody crashed a car, you've got publicists whose job it is to kind of bury that under the rug. And it also becomes great material 30 years later for an autobiography. Hey, you know why I had that scar in scene 6 of episode 2, in 1997? There's a reason for it. This is what happened. I tend to hear what Rich is saying in terms of after the fact. On the other hand, I don't think there's anything wrong with hearing from, when you're doing, I hate to use the Starlog example again, but my interview with you was partly, what was your experience as an actor? What did you know about Star Trek? What are your initial impressions of Kira? If we're still talking about this show, if it runs 7 years like The Next Generation, what do you hope her Z will be if A was the first episode? So
that is still the work. That is still the work.
Right.
Yeah.
It does change things in context. Now, there are other elements. You were raped. Jerry Ryan had a stalker. I know for a fact that, somebody's house was burglarized during Star Trek. I mean, there's all these personal experiences that carry over, which become important to the person to whom it happened. But also, as well as anybody, that people love you as the actor playing this role and Kira as the character that you played. And there are young women out there, and men as well, who look up to you as a person and to Kira as a character. There are children out in the world named Kira because of you and your performance. So where is that inspiration coming from? It's your performance. It's you as a person. It's the information about yourself that you have been willing to share, both back in the 90s when the show was on, and more so even now. Yeah. And you have always been an open book. The book is just another chapter in your book, for lack of a better phrase to mix metaphors, horribly. But, it's interesting to me. It was a question I wanted to ask you. But here's the thing. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was, after you were physically assaulted, you dove right back into work, right? So how cathartic was it to work? How much did your personal trauma carry over into Kira and your performance? Not a question that I could ask you in 1994. Yeah. Didn't know it, right? And looking back now, what were the pros and cons of A, not emotionally dealing with the assault at the time, as in PTSD, and in sharing that in much more detail now, first with Gates and then in your book.
By the way, that episode of the podcast you did with Gates was absolutely incredible.
So, but that's powerful.
And also PTS. PTS. Ian, PTS, not PTSD.
Thank you. As I heard a Navy SEAL say, it's a completely human, normal reaction to abnormal, inhuman experience. So there's no disorder there. That's a normal reaction. I would say that it was interesting that I couldn't deal with anything, that I had to jump back into work. It certainly informed my work because I understood violence in a much more personal way and really wanted to story tell it differently, to take the sexiness out of violence against women, to make it ugly. I remember a director saying, and I was screaming in pain about something, and he said, I'm just telling you this, you look grotesque, so, maybe don't strain so much as you're yelling. And a poor guy, it wasn't his fault, but I was like, no, there's nothing attractive about being tortured, so that's not going to happen. Also, I understood about about violence that no one has the power. There's not like a sexy power. Everyone is scared shitless, and no one knows what's going to happen next, including the perpetrators. That was my experience. So there's a dynamic of no one knows what this next moment is going to hold. No one. And I tried to show that in the show as well. But the fact is, we didn't know about post-traumatic stress. We didn't know how to help it. I was just given pills to get through it, which probably helped me get through it until I found a doctor who really, now exposure therapy doesn't work for everybody, but it totally worked for me, and knew how to replace, me being torn apart, replace it with Viktor Frankl's book, and information about your nervous system, and information about your brain, and post-traumatic growth is a thing. And I can pretty much say that I've had that. I am a more complex, more full human than I was before, simply because I had to help myself. I had to crawl out. So I learned, studied. I mean, this is my latest book I'm reading. Who reads books like this? Polyvagal theory.
Sadly, me.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I read neuroscience books like.
Yeah, I have a degree in psychology. So it's right up my.
Love it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's any help, I probably not. But
that's what.
But good for you.
This
too.
all led me to do.
But the fact, I would really like to underline the bravery of your ability to speak about it now. Now, however you feel about it, in terms of that act, it's of value, and that sort of truth increasingly is rare real estate. A lot of noise about these things, and I think that when I listened to the podcast you did with Gates, I have to confess I was ignorant of what you'd been through, and it was a time I listened to it and to stop, and was crying essentially, because it was, and again that's sort of the thing I'm studying, that sort of sense of that how could anyone, even a character, if I just think about you through the character, even a character that Kira's been through all sorts of that shit, the idea that anybody could do it in the real world, it's that weird blurring, and it was just but the fact you were willing to talk about it when you don't have to, even if you have gone through a personal journey where you feel you've grown and not moved past it, but assimilated it and applied it in a positive way in your life.
Well, that's it, because I really did feel like I couldn't speak on it until I wasn't vomiting it. I needed to, just as you say, take it in and get the nutrients from it, so that I can give nutrients back. I can give, this was my experience, and this is one way to think about it. And these are the things that help me. And it's easy when something feels purposeful. And it certainly feels purposeful. But 5 million years ago, our abilities as humans to go through pain was disassociation. We just simply kind of, there were systems that took over, the vagal, that made us go, okay, we're being eaten by a tiger, but I don't really feel it. I'm gone. And collapse is still something, it's the most ancient part of us. It's still something we do. Then 4 million years ago, we got the nervous system part of fight or flight, which is actually much more useful than we think. We think that's something to fight, but actually, when we get angry, that's our nervous system, and it gives us agency. Now we have a choice whether to do something or not. We don't just collapse, we can act, and we can try. And the minute we feel there's something we may be able to do, we feel powerful, we feel human, we feel not powerful, but we feel like we've got some ground under us. We can do something here. And then the next, I think it was 2 million years ago, we got the ability to communicate and to befriend and to understand community and how important that is. And that's and if you think of it, we meet Kira when she's at the nervous system part. She's angry, but she's saving her.
She's a nerve. She's a raw nerve, isn't she?
But she's saving herself. She's not in collapse. She's still fighting. And we see her transition to someone who understands that beyond just saving yourself, you can meet the true self and you can meet other people and communicate and have real community, and that's where the ginger is.
Nana, I have 3 questions left for you from my own list. I don't know about my friends here. Will there be a sequel?
To the book?
Sequel of the book?
Yeah.
That terrifies me, but I wouldn't say no to it. But it was such a hard process. I mean, that's the first book I ever wrote, so it remains to be seen.
Because there are more women to interview, more women would possibly been influenced by the book.
Oh,
Tons
my
more
God,
to go.
yes. I would love to do that.
How did writing the book alter your selection of the favorites that we spent the first hour talking about?
Good question.
Oh, I wouldn't have had the experience of watching all the shows. I would have had I probably would have been able to pick from the original and Next Gen and our show. I never watched Voyager. I just didn't. I had a bias seeing, 7 of 9 on all the billboards, and I went, oh, I know what this is. I know Hollywood. And I was so wrong. It changed it because I had a much larger playing field to choose from.
And my last question is, what other character in your career that you played do you wish were as fully developed as Kira?
Oh, on stage. This is on stage. And I played the stripper Gypsy Rose Lee.
Oh, cool.
And with Angela Lansbury playing Mama Rose in the musical Gypsy, one of the great musicals. Mm-hmm. And she was not developed. She was, to my mind, pretty two-dimensional. She was in service of Rose's character. Mm-hmm. And I think that Gypsy Rose Lee was such I've read her book and, what I know of her, really interesting woman. I would have liked that character to be more fully developed.
Well, I'm going to ask one question then, because I gave you the opportunity to get out, and then these guys carried on.
You foolishly stayed on with us, Nana. What were you thinking?
I was watching an interview with you when the book was initially coming out, and you talked about the fact that you had lots of filmed interviews, and there was the opportunity to turn this into a documentary, and I wondered if there had been any movement with that.
You know what? I don't see, people can have a different view of this, but unless I have real access to the new shows, unless I can really go to where they're filming and interview these women and be able to see what's going on now, I don't think that there's a story. I've tried to reach out to Alex several times, so we'll see.
Well, that's awesome. I certainly have no more questions. Thank you very much.
This has been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Final Frontier, a Star Trek podcast. with Rich Matthews, Ian Spelling and Toby Weidman. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email us on beyondffpod@gmail.com or check us out on social media. You can even join our Patreon at BFF Beyond the Final Frontier. Huge thanks go out to Alex Weidman for the brilliant original music. Please search Alex Weidman Composer on YouTube to hear the full fantastic theme and more. Also thanks goes to award-winning voiceover artist Cissy Jones for our excellent opening monologue. Find out more about her incredible work at cissyjones.com. And of course, last but not least, our brilliant artwork comes from the designer Russell Seal. Discover more of his work on behance.net/Russell Seal. Thanks again and see you next episode, Beyond the Final Frontier.